Okay, so welcome everyone to our Study Abroad podcast series. So today we have Smriti Singh from UT Austin, who graduated from UT Austin and now working. So we'll be knowing about her journey from Hyderabad to UT Austin. So welcome Smriti to our podcast.
Hi Vishal, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So we have some questions. So let's go through some of those questions and we'll have some discussion points branching from the questions. So Smriti, I see that you have studied at Manipal for your undergrad, and then you came to UT Austin, and there is no break in between. So, when was the very first time you decided that I would like to do a study abroad program in my life?
So I think it was pretty clear to me from the first day of undergrad itself. I think in my case, not clearing the JEE exam was a great motivator to, end up at a top university for a graduate program. So yeah, I was pretty much clear that I had to come to like a top school from the first day of my undergraduate itself.
So, when you have this clear goal that you have to go to you couldn't clear, let's say, the top college of India, so you would like to now go bypass that and go to the top college of the world now. So,
Yeah.
your path was quite clear.
Yeah.
And you did some profile building, some preparation, etc. from your year one. What were the things that you did in your 4 years that prepared you for the study abroad journey?
Yeah, so I think, like you said, you captioned the goal really well. So I think my most of like the first 2 years of my undergrad were spent sort of honing in on exactly what I would wanted to work on within CS, right? And I think within the first year itself, I tried out many different things and figured out that I want to work in AI, and more specifically, I want to work in like AI for social good sort of initiatives, right? And then I think it was just my luck that I had a very good network of seniors who were very helpful and who were very, encouraging of this goal. They really explained to me based on what they've heard from others, from their seniors, and so on. How research is really important if you want to get into a top school, right? And how you might be able to get into a top school with full funding or even partial funding if you have a good research presence. So, a to from the end of my first year or maybe the start of my second year itself, it was clear to me that the way forward is like a really strong research profile. And around that time only, it became clear that within AI, I want to work specifically in NLP. So from there, I think the rest of the 3 years were spent just, building a good NLP research career, uh, getting ready basically, so that when colleges look at my application, they know that, she has worked hard and she's worth giving the seat to in the college.
So each year there is like a summer vacation, where people usually do internships or some kind of part-time job. So did you do
Yeah.
anything in your first year summer break also, or you started from the second year and so on?
First year, unfortunately, I don't think anybody like takes you, and then also I don't think I had enough skill set. Like you're just learning, right? From second year, I've been pretty proactive with internships. I would say that's a pretty important part of this actually. I always went for like ML internships, AI internships, whatever would, sort of give me some experience in terms of like learning more new tech stacks. And yeah, basically, because academically my career was concentrated on research, but I was aware that, after masters, people would generally value some professional experience as well. And the only way I could get that as as an undergrad student is through the form of internships.
So how you secured your very first internship?
So my very first internship was actually at a company called myways.ai. That was at the end of my second year. And I think I acquired it through networking on LinkedIn only. I'm not exactly, I don't remember how I came into contact with the guy who actually got me talking to the company, but I think it was mostly a lot of networking opportunities. That was also something that I was focused on in my undergraduate, because I knew that, if you want to send like really polished applications to universities, you need to know people who have come from, different walks of life. You need to know some people who are at those universities already. Like there are a lot of people's opinions who are valuable. So I was also very focused on networking. And I think my first internship came through that.
And I see that you have done one internship in Toronto also. So could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so that was my second internship, though it was my first research internship actually, because around that time I got to know that like it helps, like having publication helps, and then having research internships also adds like resume value, like they can see that you're serious about pursuing your research, right? So I had actually gotten to know about the program through a senior of mine, and I had applied accordingly. And it was going to be in Toronto actually, but unfortunately that was the COVID year. So the internship ended up being remote, but I'm fortunate in the sense that at least I still got to do the internship. I definitely think that was an invaluable experience for me because that was the first time I was working with like, acclaimed international professors, right? And it was like a whole new world to me. I remember like attending their meetings at night because in India, there like our time zone that time was not aligned. So I would be working at night and like, attending their meetings, and I was completely mesmerized initially by their work culture and, just how it's different from ours. It was definitely a very valuable experience to me.
So you got like a trailer of what you will do later.
Exactly. Yes, yes, yes.
And once you were in like third year beginning or third year end, you would have also started preparing for some tests like GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, etc. When was that thing happened?
Yeah, I think that happened a little bit later because I was too much focused on my like research papers and stuff. But yeah, I think by fourth year at least I had started preparing for GRE. And these are really like more than like clear indicators. They're just something you have to get done, and they give like a minimum level of like skills or like language or whatever. So yeah, I did get done with the exams, and yeah. I wouldn't say that's like the strongest indicator on a profile. There's just some kind of requirement that you have to get done, but you do have to do it well enough, like with
Yeah,
the,
sure.
well,
So it
yeah.
was not like waived at your time. It was like a mandatory requirement by the colleges.
So that's the thing. I had applied to a bunch of diverse colleges. GRE actually was waived for almost all of them. I think only two of the colleges at the time wanted it. But since they wanted it and since I was anyways preparing, I gave it. Yeah. But TOEFL was not waived. That was pretty much compulsory throughout. I have not heard of that being waived for anybody.
And how many colleges did you apply to? And you applied to how many countries in your case?
So because my internship in my tax was like in Canada, I did apply to a few top universities in Canada. Most of my applications were like concentrated toward US, but yeah, I think, and then I think I also applied to Oxford in Europe. That was the only one that I applied to in Europe. But like after I got the admits, I understood that like I want to go to US only because Canada is too cold for me, and I had lived in US for like 8 years previously. So like at least between US and Europe, that was, sort of familiarity was there. So that's why I knew that I had to go to US. Plus their universities, they have some really good universities here. Yeah, especially for like, NLP research and stuff. So
So you knew some people, like some relatives, friends already in US that time?
not relatives, unfortunately. I don't think I have like maybe extended family here. But yeah, my parents do have a lot of friends here. And again, unfortunately, none of them being in Texas. But yeah, I mean, basically I had to come here, set up my own circle, do my own cooking, cleaning. I had the same experience as anyone else. Just maybe along the side, like knowing like, yeah, this is how things are here, like with that expectation being met.
So
Yeah.
initial 8 years were already like no, not many shocks you had probably.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that like compared to somebody coming for the first time, I might have just skipped the like cultural shock part because like I've already seen, though whatever I had seen was in my childhood, but still, yeah, I do think it makes a little bit of a difference.
So the memories were good enough, clear enough in your case.
Actually, yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think maybe as a child, I didn't hone in on how important it is to have like a good social circle here and all. But those are things you like pretty much pick up when you come here. That expectation that yeah, once you go there, you have to do your own cooking, your own cleaning, you have to fend for yourself. That is something that I remembered correctly.
Sure, sure, sure. And
Yeah.
once you got your admit and or offer letter, etc., and you chose that okay, you will go to UT Austin, and you had to probably get a visa appointment and flight accommodation done. So how were those things for you?
Yeah, so I think choosing the university, basically for me, it came down to funding because I remember I was caught, even within the US, I was caught between three really good universities, like all top 10 in the US, right? And for me, it just came down to the fact that I was able to secure full funding here at UT Austin. So that just became like a no-brainer for me. That alongside with the fact that, the advisor who I got here, her work is really aligned with my long term goals and such. So I think for me that decision was a no brainer. And then once that decision was done, the visa process was pretty streamlined. I don't think I faced any issues there. Again, I had a very good network of seniors who were very much ready to explain how things are supposed to go every step of the way. Even the questions, the visa officers, they don't give you much trouble once you tell, like, UT Austin, the name has its own weight. So I think they just smiled at me and they just said, okay, like best of luck. I think they asked one question regarding what my like research area is. I think that was it. And then
And you got
yeah,
the funding was like already decided pre-hand or like at the offer time only?
no, so how it worked is I got the admit letters and then I emailed the professors I was interested in. Already in my application, I had mentioned for every university that this is the professor I want to work with here. So I emailed all of them after getting accepted. And then a couple of them, maybe like two, three of them replied from like two different universities. And then I interviewed with all of them and basically 1 year's funding got secured like at that time, like during the interview process. And then after coming here, the second year uh, like also got confirmed.
So initially during the visa, you had to probably show some funds because you had only 1 year of fund with you. So you had to show additional year of fund, something like that as a part of application or nothing like
Yeah,
this.
since there was no official documentation at the time to show that I had funding because like you have to come here for that documentation to come through. So I didn't actually tell like in my application that I got funding because there was no like concrete way to prove it. So I had to show the normal amount only, like whatever you would expect for first year fees. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure. And after that, the accommodation and the flight, how did you book and how did you find those?
Yeah, so I think for me it kind of went reverse order. I first secured my funding, then I secured my flat, and then I secured my visa. So yeah, at the time, there was a very good WhatsApp group. I made a lot of good friends from that WhatsApp group itself. I would very much say that that is still my social circle here. So together we figured out, based on Google ratings or whatever, how to get accommodation. And I think we did a fairly good job for somebody who's never actually been to the city, like, never been to Austin. I think we did a fairly good job with that. And the thing is, because all of us were sort of doing it together, there was a good group, at least the first year, where everybody was sort of in that apartment complex only. So that was also very good. I feel like without that, it could have gotten really lonely really fast. I'm glad to have not had that experience actually. But
So
yeah.
which flight did you choose? Which airlines did you fly with?
I came through British Airways. It was I everybody has their my first time traveling to the USA was horrible, right? I also had that experience. For me, I think my flight was like from Hyderabad to Delhi, Delhi to London, and then London to Austin. So in Delhi, the layover got like extended because their flight's wheels were not working on something. They decided they have to replace the flight's wheels. And then I barely made the London flight by like 5 minutes. We were like full on sprinting and very stressful experience. But yeah, I think we got here on time and yeah, that was
But
pretty
your
good.
luggage was directly like check-in in Hyderabad and you collected in Austin, or you had to recheck your luggage? in Delhi?
Fortunately, I did not have to recheck my luggage. Their rules with that are pretty, variable with the time. But I think at that time they were having some kind of fiasco. That was also one more stress point. Around August 2022, British Airways lost a lot of people's luggage, and then it was in the news. And then everybody who was coming in that flight was like, oh no, we are going through British Airways. What if our luggage gets lost and all? But thankfully, there were no problems with the luggage. We had to check it in and directly collected it at Austin, so that was good.
And you did fly with some people, or you flew like solo that time?
So I came with my then roommate. I came with her. The dates aligned that way. Like there was a lot of us who were just traveling, I think, in like 2, 3 days. But that 2, 3 day span, most of us were coming. But I think for me, the dates aligned with her, and then it was good also because I had got to know her pretty well by then. So yeah, we flew together, and definitely it was
Flew
like good.
together from Hyderabad, or like at Delhi you
No,
met?
she met me in Delhi. She was from like that Delhi side. So
So you, when you were barely making the 5 minute thing, she was already on the plane, right?
no, delay was in Delhi, right? So we were running in the Heathrow airport. We
Oh,
were
okay,
running
okay. When you
together.
landed in
Yeah,
Heathrow, okay. London
yeah,
was
yeah,
not so good for you.
yeah. We couldn't even click a picture, like for all the hype, there wasn't even time to just stop and like take a photo of the London airport. That also couldn't be done. Yeah.
And you had to change some terminals also, probably, which took a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, that was actually really confusing because the Heathrow airport is really big. So we took a train, we went to the wrong terminal, then we took another train, then we came to the right terminal. That was like, adding to the delay.
Sure, sure, sure. Anyway, I mean, all these learnings are part of the excitement, I guess, now.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And once you landed in Austin, and from the airport, you landed and you came to the accommodation, was there any glitches or any fear, anything happened as such?
No, no, I think the accommodation was pretty good for, people who just landed here. It was nothing fancy, obviously, but it was like it had all the basic amenities. And yeah, I think one shock that you get is it's very quiet here. That's something that, everybody reports. Like India, there's always some constant background noise, be it from the streets, be it from your neighbors, whatever. Here, it's not like that. I think that's the first thing that hit me at least. It's just really, really quiet. And that's something I didn't remember from my childhood as well. Because I think intentionally, so that I don't notice this, my parents used to leave on the TV all the time. So, like, some white noise used to be coming. So when I got here, there was no TV in the apartment at the time. So that's the first thing I felt, that it's really quiet. And then the other thing I think we Indians are probably not used to is like yellow lighting. And I don't know how much that matters to others, but to me and my roommate, it like we immediately replaced all the yellow lights with white lights because that's just what we're more used to. But yeah, I mean, nothing major. These are all, I think, local adjustments that you would have to make anywhere.
And your classes started like a week or 2 week later. You came a bit before, or how was that?
Yeah, yeah. I came a bit before only. I think I came exactly 2 weeks before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that 2 weeks was cooking, cleaning, and washing adjustment for you, or
Yes,
you
very
were
much
okay
so.
okay with that?
I was not at all a big cooker in India. I was like just I used to hate cooking. I never went into the kitchen. So I always say, right, like my advisor also toward the end of my graduation, she was asking me what is like, what is the biggest skill that you have learned at UT? And I said, you know what, it is cooking for me because I have had to go into the kitchen every day. Like if you want to eat, you have to cook. That's all. So first 2 weeks were definitely, and my roommate was also like that at the time. She also was not much of a cook. So together we were like, figuring out how to close the cooker, how to boil dal and all that. First 2 weeks went in that, as well as like getting adjusted to the environment, stepping out, maybe walking across campus. For me, I had to meet with my advisor, set up my paperwork and all of that. So yeah, that's what the first 2 weeks were useful for, aside from obviously forming like, your social circle.
And when you went to your classes and like the campus, the first few weeks, any educational shocks, cultural shock from the education point of view, like the way the classroom is conducted or the teachers teach, etc.
I think the way the teachers teach here is definitely something that not a lot of people are used to unless they've seen it before. It's very different and very refreshing compared to the Indian style. It's very interactive, right? And it's very like, interesting, like it captivates you. And yeah, that's definitely one thing. I think the first course I took was like this ethical AI course. That's like the first class I ended up attending because of the way the timetable is constructed and all. First class, I remember everybody in that class was like mind blown. We were looking at each other like this is the best course we have ever taken. So yeah, I think definitely the teaching style that way is something to really, really, really it is something worth like praising.
And in your 2 years of studies here, what about the internships and all? How did you hunt for them?
So here, unlike India, unfortunately, there is no placement system. That along with this fact that when our batch came here, the market really, really tanked, right? So I think our experience as a batch was like different from traditional batches at UT. We definitely had to hustle more, we had to network more, we had to struggle more, specifically for CS. For some reason, I saw like EC, they had it a bit easier last year. I mean, like last 2 years. But CS, it was a complete struggle. People had to network for themselves. They had to fend whatever internships they could for themselves. I do think most of us ended up getting lucky. Like everybody that I can think of right now, we did get an internship that we were happy with, right? And then we were told at the time that, oh, by the time we enter the job market, it will be much better. And it was not, in fact, much better. Again, the same struggle had to happen for the job because I don't know people whose internships converted. In fact, I don't think anybody, like most of the people's internship did not convert in my batch because again, the market situation was really bad. So again, the same struggle happened in the job search, but I think second time around we were more prepared for it because we had already gone through it once. So yeah, that was definitely something. But again, like you said, I think all of these are just, character building experiences that make you a stronger person overall. Market will be up today, down tomorrow, whatever it is, but these skill sets will stay with you for a lifetime.
And I see that you have already joined a full-time job. So how was that job hunting for you?
That also, Vishal, it was through extensive networking and interviewing only. I was lucky to actually get in touch with the manager on LinkedIn and, have a couple of conversations with him before the interview process. But yeah, and I found that very, very, very late. Like, I think by the time the offer was signed and all, I think I was only like 2 days away from graduation. I remember my parents were landing for my graduation like the next day or something. So it's all like, it's definitely luck and there is a luck component involved, there is a component of patience involved. You have to learn to be like, very patient and very calm. And yeah, I think like a lot of skill sets that itself taught me actually, like soft skills.
So how much time can somebody stay in US after the degree completion for the job hunting?
So my understanding is that you have to find a job within the first 90 days of your graduation or something like that. So you have to apply for a EAD card after your graduation is done, right? And that EAD card, you can choose your start date. So that is when you'll sort of start counting your unemployment days, right? At the start date of that EAD card. Now you have to apply for that EAD card in such a way that it comes to you at least within 60 days after your graduation. So if you don't have a job at hand, then I feel it becomes a bit of a challenge which I too faced. You have to correctly place the start date in such a way that you're sure that you're employed by then because you don't want to accrue unemployment days. You only have 90 unemployment days in total. So from the start of that EAD card date, you can stay here for 90 days, like, searching for a job. Once you have a job, though, I think your visa is valid for 3 years here, especially because you're in a STEM related field. Otherwise, I think that timeline is different. But for us, we had like STEM visas. So I think that has like 2 years plus 1 year extension, is at least my current understanding.
So the start date of unemployment is after the convocation or like let's say thesis submission or something in between.
So you basically have to apply for the EAD card. And when like you get to choose the start date, so it is obviously after convocation. Most people choose it to be within like June, like what, June middle, June start to June middle, depending on how confident they are about their interview process. So what I have most commonly seen is people putting it from like June 10th to maybe what, June 20th. That's like the latest I have seen. I haven't like heard of anybody putting it later than that. But I think the latest it can be is like July 13th-ish, maybe July mid. That's the latest date you can put. So then that would give you until like what, September to be in the country, I guess. All these calculations I used to do, like what if I don't get a job? How long can I be here and all. So that's why I know all this. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think people cannot just put any fake date also, probably because they are also scared that if somebody finds out that, I graduated that time, but I'm putting this date, maybe they'll deny my visa,
Oh,
etc.
no, no. All of this data is already like, when are you graduating, and all this data is already with the government. So there's no possibility
Cheating.
also for you to lie there. First of all, that would be very dangerous if you got caught. But yeah, thankfully, it's not possible also in the given system.
Correct, correct, correct. Sure,
Yeah.
sure. And what's your future goal now? Now that you are already in the job market, what have you thought about doing in the next few years?
So I think for me, one thing that this interview process really taught me is that people value professional experience, right? Like once you're done with graduation, the impact that your H index has or your research profile has really, really, like it is drastically reduced. And I saw people saying, like, I have been told so many times that you don't have enough experience for this role, like way too much. So I think for me, my focus is now to get some good corporate experience in my field, right? I think the first 2, 3 months have already been like a transformative experience for me. It really is different. At the interview time, I used to think, why are they like, doing this? How can it be? Like, how can it be that I have this much research experience, but nobody is willing to bet on me? But I do understand that it's like a very different skill set, like, in terms of corporate life and academic life. So I think my first focus is on like, getting some good experience, and with that, I am trying to maintain my passion with research, right? I am trying to still stay connected, still network, still build like, good research network, work on a couple of research projects on the side. Maybe that is definitely my goal. So yeah.
So, what's your current job like? What's like the duties that you perform on everyday basis? In nutshell.
So I was lucky that way that at least the role that I found is closely aligned to my interests. So I am still working on LLMs. I'm working for like developing LLMs for like financial purposes. And yeah, it's a confidential project, so I don't think I can share any more than that. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Okay, so
Yeah.
coming to the very last question, so
Yeah.
we'll come to if you have any professional tips, pro tips for our juniors that might be preparing for study abroad, like you, something that you knew and others didn't, don't, or something, some special tips for them.
So I think with my experience, of course, everybody's experience is a little bit different. So the advice that they give is a little bit different. But I think for me, in this market, I wouldn't recommend coming here without professional experience. I think even 1 year makes a big difference. And I think in this current market, you should not come directly as a fresher. That is my like that is my humble opinion, because you will still find something. It's not that you won't, especially if your university is good and all. But I think just with 1 year, because at the time I remember thinking, like during my process, I was thinking that if I work even for 1 year, probably I'll not have the motivation to start studying again. That was my thought process, right? And I feel like obviously hindsight is always 2020, but I do feel that like if somebody is in that current position, take the job that you're getting, work for a year, and then come. I really do think it'll make a lot of difference post your like master's studies.
Sure, and probably a lot of internships possible, and start thinking about all this like at the very beginning of your bachelor's, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I think the earlier you start, the more time you have to plan, figure out detail. I'm definitely an advocate for planning like way, way in advance. And definitely, like you said, the internships thing, how many ever internships you can do. I think there is a lot of like, peer pressure among undergrad people to like, get the highest paying internship or, get the internship with the biggest brand. I also used to think that way, but I think life has taught me a little bit differently now. It's not about the money, it's not about the brand, it's about the skills that you can acquire to become a better engineer.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I see this also with a lot of people. They go by brands and they go by the stipend maybe, but it's
Yeah.
actually the key learning that they do would actually help them become a better person in their career, etc. Rather than what stipend they got in their first year, second year versus what brands they work with. So ultimately, everything is what you learn. What you can give to the new employer.
Correct, correct. Yeah, I feel like that's a hard concept to explain to somebody who's like maybe just 18, 19, 20. Because at the time I also used to think like that. And the thing that I think it's hard to kind of conceptualize is that right now you're looking at the stipend, but like 3 years later, 4 years later, you're not going to remember the stipend. You're going to remember what you worked on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And probably, as a student, you are paying money to learn. So probably don't
Yeah.
expect the money so much. Focus on the learning because the focus is even you pay for learning rather than get paid the
Correct,
other
correct.
way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, that is true. No matter how much the stipend, you're not going to work off your undergraduate fee. So yeah, that is definitely there. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
true.
sure. So thank you, Smriti, for sharing your insights, and it was great to know your experience and your preparation time. You did all this starting from the very first day of college, etc., which is not with that usual, but we hope that our audience will learn something from you that start from the day one or maybe minus one rather. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Vishal. It was a really nice experience
So
to.
after this podcast, you might be getting some connection requests, etc., on LinkedIn. So feel free to accept and help the juniors if there is a need.
Yes, yes, definitely. My inbox is already full of messages. I do my best to reply to everybody, though sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But yeah, I definitely do try to make sure that, anybody in my position I can help out.
Sure, sure. Okay then,
Yeah.
Smriti. Take care.
Okay.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. Bye.